Okay, the first settlers of European descent were mainly Dutch. They came in here as trappers and fur purchasers, which the Indians traded for iron implements, because the Lenape had been, of course, a Stone Age population, and they didn't settle here first. They didn't establish farms. It wasn't really till after about 1714 that you began to see a growing number of immigrants coming here from Europe, in this area mainly English and Scottish and Dutch initially, and French Huguenots, and they began to establish farms. And agriculture, the Indians were great horticulturalists, and they were also great hunters and gatherers of wild berries and fruits and vegetables and so forth, and herbs. And the new settlers, the Europeans, were farmers, and there was an incompatibility there because the farmers wanted to own property. The Indians didn't have the concept of private ownership of property. The settlers wanted deeds. They wanted the property to be legally documented, and their lifestyle, the way, I mean, the farmers here brought cattle. They brought milk cows. The Indians didn't have many species of livestock, and the settlers began to fence their lands and build stone boundaries and so forth, and so there was unfortunately an incompatibility between the settlers' lifestyle and economy and the Native Americans. And eventually, certainly by the 1740s, most of the Lenape had left and migrated westward, ending up in parts of Canada, around the Great Lakes, and into Oklahoma, to parts of Oklahoma by the 1870s. But not all the Native Americans left. Some were already a mixture genetically of Europeans and African Americans, and their descendants are still here, their families. So we can't say that the Indians just disappeared and no longer existed, even though the census of 1890 said I think there were only 3 or 4 Indians, quote Indians, living in Orange County, which was ridiculous. And in fact, before the European contact, before the 18th century, the Indian communities here were quite sizable. Some of them were very, very large, and they lived very well. They maintained a good quality of life, had a good diet, were healthy, and had prospered even before the colonial period began.
Yeah, but the other thing to keep in mind is that the population had been decimated by European diseases. I think the estimates are that roughly up to 90% of the indigenous population
had died from diseases like smallpox was a major killer, measles as well. They had no natural immunities to so many of the European diseases, so the mortality rates were extremely high. So that by the 1710s, 1715 or so, these communities were traumatized by these massive pandemics, and they had lost a lot of their leadership, a lot of their cohesion, and as a result were vulnerable to the huge European growth of the population among them.